Howdy, Mrs. Gordy's class. We're ready for another week and some more science with Mr. Marks. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I hope you took the time to share with your moms how much you love them and care for them. The animals that we're going to look at this week are the first animals that really have mothers, which means they have mothers and fathers that take care of them when they are young. But before we get into the animals this week, I want to do a quick review. Are you ready? Now, the first animal we looked at were insects, like butterflies and my Jiminy Cricket. Insects have exoskeletons, which means their skeletons are on the outside. They start from eggs. They go through stages of change from when they hatch from their eggs, and it's called metamorphosis. They have three body parts. They have a head, they have a thorax, which is, yep, you're right, Nick, that's their neck. They have three pairs of legs. 3 times 2 is, you got it, Layla, 6. They have 2 antennae, which help them with their balance, and they can feel and sense with them. And all insects have wings, generally 2 sets of wings, like this butterfly. Then we did some things with fish. These were our first animals that had an internal skeleton, so we call it a vertebrate. Their skeletons are made of bone, or some have that cartilage, that softer bone, kind of like the one in your nose. They are cold-blooded, which means they're the same temperature as the water that they live in. They also come from eggs. They have gills to breathe. They take the oxygen out of the water and pass it over their gills, and that's how they get oxygen into their blood to live. They also have 3 body parts. They don't really have a neck, though. They have a head, a body, and a tail. They all live in the water, and they have skin that are covered in scales. And then we looked at reptiles. They are also vertebrates, which means their bones are on the inside. Reptiles lay eggs. Oftentimes their eggs are leathery or hard-shelled, which is different than fish. They are cold-blooded like fish, but they have lungs to breathe air. They have dry skin that's covered in scales or a shell, which is called a scute, I'm told. And they have 3 body parts. Most have 4 legs, and they can live in water, but most live on the land. But remember, if they live in water, they still have to breathe air. Now, this week, we are going to be talking about an animal, or kinds of animals, that have lungs to breathe. They come from eggs. They have wings. So Aya, what do you think? Take a guess. Everybody else, give me a B. Give me an I. Give me an R. Give me a D. Give me an S. Were you right, Layla? Was it? Good job. All right, off. So when we did some things about fish, I showed you all of the things in my house that are some sort of representation of fish, because I really like fish. But you know what? My wife really likes birds, and we got a lot of birds around our house. So in a second, I'm going to show you some of the ones that we have. You ready? Now, all over our house, we have different representations of birds. My wife's father became a bird carver as a retired person. And he spent a lot of time carving out of wood different kinds of birds. Their whole family used to go on trips taking photographs of birds. And one of the things that I learned from my wife is how much birds are an important part of the world, and they're fun to go and try and find. There are birds like goldfinches, which are a kind of canary. There are chickadees that have a special song that goes chickadee-dee-dee-dee-dee if you listen. There are jays. This particular one is a green jay. There are wrens, which are hard to see because they blend in so well. There are chickens. Trolls? No trolls. There are hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are probably my favorite bird. There are woodpeckers. Big woodpeckers like this, and smaller woodpeckers like these nuthatches. We have all sorts of wall hangings, and up at our cottage up north, lots of different photographs of different kinds of birds. So now we've got to figure out, what is it that makes a bird a bird? Now, these birds that my father-in-law carved out of wood are really lifelike looking, aren't they? They're awfully cool, and we have them strewn throughout our house on shelves and cabinets, and it helps remind us of the people that are important in our lives and the fun that nature has in store for us if we just take the time to look around. So, what about birds? What do we know? Malik, if an animal has a skeleton on the inside, there's that V word. Do you remember? Yes, it's vertebrates. Birds are vertebrates. What's interesting about some of their bones, though, is that their bones are really light. Many of them are hollow, which means they have nothing inside them. It helps them fly. Now, Abbas, we have talked about a lot of animals that can't regulate the temperature of their bodies. Reptiles and fish, if they're cold, they're cold. If they're warm, they're warm. We call them cold-blooded. Birds are not cold-blooded. What would be the opposite of cold, do you think? Good job. Yes, birds are warm-blooded like you and me, which means if it's cold outside, their blood can keep them warm, just like with you. Now, their skin is also covered in something, Nabil, something different than the scales of a butterfly's wings. What do you think that's on a bird's wings and body? You're right, feathers. All birds are covered in feathers. Now, most birds fly, like this jay, or this chickadee, or the goldfinch, or even a lovebird. They fly. Not all birds fly. In fact, I'm going to read a story later about a bird that doesn't fly. Do you have any idea what bird doesn't fly, Manissa? Okay, we'll see if you are right in a few minutes when I read my story. Now, birds have wings and they can fly. They also lay eggs. And as I said to you before, these are some of the animals that actually take care of their eggs, and when they hatch, like a chicken will take care of its eggs, keep them warm, and when they hatch, they help them learn how to become adults. They feed them, they take care of them, and they teach them, just like your moms and dads teach you. Now, birds, unlike you and me, don't need a toothbrush because they don't have teeth. They have beaks, but inside their beaks, almost all birds have tongues. And something I learned this time in trying to investigate birds is birds have bones in their tongues. I don't know why, but they do. Now they have heads, they have necks, they have bodies, they have tails. That means, alias, they have 1, 2, 3, right, 4 body parts. And all birds have 2 feet, which means they gotta have legs, which is different than our reptiles and fish and insects. Now, I don't have a project for today as much as I have an activity for you. On your computers, if you would go into the search portion and type in explore.org, you will find all sorts of bird cameras. Cameras set up on trees and in nature, and you can watch eagles and their nests. You can see owls and all sorts of other kinds of birds and animals. Also, for an activity, sometime this week, as it gets warmer, see if you can get your mom and dad to give you 10 minutes outside with a piece of paper and a pencil. Number 1, I just want you to listen. Go out and hear the birds in your neighborhood. There are probably 10 or 15 different kinds of birds, and oftentimes you can tell they're around just by listening for their songs. You could even try and sing back to them. I do that sometimes when I'm fishing. Then I want you to watch. You're going to see some robins on the ground. I'm sure of it. You're going to see some starlings flying back and forth between their nests. You might see some blue jays or cardinals. With your pencil and paper, take a count of the different kinds of birds that you see. In 10 minutes, I'm going to guess that you might see 15 different kinds of birds if you watch closely. Because I know that most scientists believe that there are probably 15,000 different kinds of birds in the world. And a lot of them live by your house. Now, all the birds that we have in our house are representations of birds that fly. Whether it's a rug my friend in Colorado made, or it's one of the birds that my father-in-law carved out of wood, or whether it's glass birds and sculptures that we have around the house, or the bird houses that we have up north, they are all birds that fly. But there are a couple of kinds of birds that don't fly, and I bet you'll recognize this one right away when I tell the story of One Cool Friend. It's written by Tony Bozio, and pictures are by David Small. I hope you enjoy it. One Cool Friend. Now, Elliot was a very proper young man. So on one Saturday morning when his father said, "Hey, it's family fun day at the aquarium. Shouldn't we go?" Elliot thought for a moment. Lots of kids. Noisy kids. But he only said, "Oh, of course, Dad. Thanks for inviting me." At the aquarium, Elliot's father settled on a bench to read his National Geographic. "Hey, have some fun, Elliot," he said. So Elliot did. Now, he skipped the mobs of kids that were at the giant saltwater tank, the amazing jellyfish display, and the hands-on tidal pool. And at the end of the hall, he discovered penguins! In their tidy black feather tuxedos with their proper posture, they kind of reminded Elliot of himself. Even Ferdinand Magellan looked like his kind of guy. Ferdinand Magellan was an explorer who is said to have first discovered penguins. At noontime, Elliot's father asked, "Are you having any fun?" "Well, yes, thank you," said Elliot. "May I please have a penguin?" "Sure," his father said, and handed over a $20 bill. "That's very kind of you," Elliot said, and off he headed down the hall. Elliot emptied the school notices from his backpack. He selected the smallest penguin, and he popped it inside his backpack. His father asked, "Where's your penguin?" as they were leaving. "It's in my backpack. Thanks for asking," Elliot said. Well, in his room, Elliot dialed the air conditioner down to its coldest setting, knowing that penguins like it cold. "Maybe you'd like to skate?" Elliot asked. "Grok," said Magellan. So Elliot dragged his old wading pool upstairs, then fed the garden hose through the kitchen window and turned on the faucet. "Oh, forgive my inconvenience, Dad," he said as he passed his father's office. Soon the air conditioner had done its work, and Magellan and Elliot were having fun skating. Later, Elliot knocked on the door of his father's office. "I have some research to do at the library about Magellan." "Oh, good. When I was in 3rd grade, I got Captain Cook," his father said. "Well, where did you keep him?" Elliot asked. But his father had already returned to charting the changing boundaries of the Great Barrier Reef. Elliot and Magellan rode to the library. When Elliot set him on the librarian's desk, Magellan held perfectly still. Mrs. Stanbridge didn't blink an eye, even when Magellan blinked his. She helped them access www.penguinsonice.com, then copy pages from Antarctic Anecdotes and borrow the book Best Behavior for Birds. On the way home, Elliot stopped for 8 bags of ice and a snack. Luckily, his father's $20 bill was just enough to cover it. When he got home, his dad asked, "How'd the research go?" "Great," Elliot said. "Magellan was perfect." "Just like Captain Cook," his father said. Elliot read his library book aloud while Magellan cooled down. They shared a bag of goldfish crackers, but Magellan was still hungry. "May I please bake some frozen pizzas for supper?" Elliot asked. "That's nice of you, but the only flavor we have left is anchovy," his father said. "Perfect. Magellan loves them." Well, that evening, Elliot heard his father rummaging around for ice cream late at night. Luckily, Magellan had politely moved the carton to the front of the freezer shelf. Unfortunately, Magellan forgot his manners overnight and ate a few too many sardines and frozen shrimp. When Magellan awoke, he was longing for a swim. Elliot drew him a deep bath of cold water. He left Magellan diving and holding his breath. "Oh, I think I'm going to have a bit of a soak," Elliot's father announced. "Wait," Elliot said. "I left my penguin in there." "Oh, I'll set him on the hamper and do my best not to splash." "Elliot!" came the scream from the bathroom. Elliot rushed to the door. "Young man, where did this penguin come from?" his father demanded. "The southern tip of Argentina," Elliot said. "Well, that's right," his father said. "As for Captain Cook here, he came from the Galapagos Islands." And that is the end. I hope you liked it. Now, the fun thing about birds, other than penguins, is that they like to fly. And we've all had the idea for many years what it would be like to fly. That's why they invented planes, so that people could fly like birds. If nothing else, go get a piece of paper, fold up a paper airplane that looks like this, and see if you can fly it. See you later this week. Bye.